and welcome on into Sidelines and Coaches Roundtable. Today, our topic of discussion is building relationships with student athletes and alumni. One of the things that has been touched on in pretty much every single episode has been the object of building those relationships and how building those relationships are a benefit to your program. But of course, you all know it starts before a student athlete is even a Mansfield student athlete. So I want to start there. With two of you are on the recruiting episode, but with that, building that relationship with a potential player, where does that start? Whoever would like to go.
Yeah, I'll go. I guess I'll start. For me, it starts with I tell everyone two things when I start a conversation, whether it's in my office or whether it's via Zoom. I just had one this morning. I say, look, two things. One, I ramble. I'm high energy. And two, I'm super transparent. I said, if you pick Mansfield University, it needs to be for the right reasons. If you come to Mansfield, I want you to be here for 4 years. So it starts with right from the get-go, I say I'm an open book, and I mean it. They can ask me anything about the school, myself personally, the program, etc. And I just answer it 100% honest. And I think that immediately just starts to build a foundation of trust.
And I think Dave hit it in the head. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm as transparent as I can. If I have a kid leave after 1 year, I'm in the exact same situation I was the year before. And so just as transparent as honest as you can be, because when they get here, they have to trust you if they're going to work for you. And, if you're telling lies in the recruiting process, you're not going to get anything out of that kid while he's here.
Yeah, 100%. I think trust is key, especially when you're trying to get to know a kid on a personal level. But for me, it just starts with, like I just said, getting to know them personally. I mean, I think if I'm recruiting them, if I'm talking to them, it's obvious that I think he's talented enough to play, for our team. I wouldn't be talking to him if I didn't think so when it comes to basketball-wise or skill-wise. But I just try to get to know them as a person, and then just lay out who I am as a person as well, and just keep that trust line open because, again, the trust is the most important thing in any aspect, in my opinion. But if they trust you, they'll run through a wall for you any day of the week.
And add on to that, like just getting to know them, getting to know their interests outside of that particular sport, their hobbies, because, we all know Mansfield isn't a fit for everybody. And just the more you know about the guy, you're going to have a better idea yourself if he's going to be a good fit for your program or not.
That's true. I think that in the first conversation that I have with a potential student athlete, I mean, you have to ask those real questions. I mean, you have to ask those really talented kids that I know may love city life. And you have to say, hey, do you want to be in a city? Because if you do, that's just one of the things. And so those are kind of one of the things I ask. What are their interests? Do you like going to the city life? Do you like outdoorsy areas? Because, again, getting to know them personally is going to help you be able to recruit them, one, but also help you gather what their experiences are going to be here at Mansfield.
Yeah, and to jump on that, part of it, especially with recruits early in the process, it is helping them through that process. Just like Seth, one of the questions I ask is, what are you looking for in a school? Big, small, urban, rural. And if they say they don't know, if they say they're open to anything, then I ask a lot of follow-up questions about what do you want from a school in terms of social life? What do you want from a school in terms of relationship with your professor? Just like I tell them at the very start of the conversation, if they end up not picking Mansfield, but my conversation helped lead them to the school that's the right fit for them, then that's actually a win for me. I still feel like I've done my job, even though I didn't get a potential student athlete to come to Mansfield. I've helped her on the process, and that just builds that relationship.
Yep.
You don't know how many times, like, one of the first questions I asked him when I talked to him was, what do they know about Mansfield? And how many times they don't know anything, period.
Nothing.
They know that we're in the PSAC conference, and just like every other sport, they know that the PSAC is one of the premier Division II conferences in just about every sport there is. But other than that, they usually don't know a whole lot. So once again, you're guiding them through that process, especially when you get kids from the Philadelphia area, the Pittsburgh area. Even though we're 3.5, 4 hours away in the same state, they know very little about our school for the most part when you talk to them.
Yeah, it can be a culture shock for sure.
So in terms of building that, when they do come on campus, either to look, how do you build that bond then and try to get them comfortable with the pseudo culture shock when they are interested, or if they're undecided of interest? What do you do to sell and to build that relationship between you and the potential student athlete to get them comfortable with the school?
I would say time. My answer is time. When I have a recruit on campus, and man, I can't wait to be able to get back to having recruits on campus, but it takes most of my day, and I don't get much work done when I have a recruit on campus. And sometimes that can be a stressor, but for me, it can't be a rush. And I meet with them in my office. I meet them in the park and bring them into my office. I take them on the tour. I walk them everywhere. We do lunch or we do breakfast or we do dinner depending on the time. It's my average time with a recruit is 4 hours, and I've spent as much as 6 hours on a visit, just an on-campus visit with a recruit. And so that's just time and 6 hours of talking. And my voice is fried by the end of it, but it's just putting that time in. And even the feedback is, this is rare. So often, young women say, coaches meet with me. They talk a little bit in the office, and then a tour guide shows up in the office, and the tour guide takes me. Or players take me, right? And yeah, I include time for them to meet with players as well. But I need to spend 3, 4, 5 hours with them on that visit, so they get to know me and I get to know them.
I think the one thing for me, I would say just the lead up to their visits, kind of like what he just said about time, but my time would be more spent before they get there. I mean, granted, I still spend a lot of time when they're on their visit with them, but I like to put in the work before they come on their visit. I want to know everything about them. I want to know what they like. Again, that's kind of why I referred to asking those tough questions, about what do they like? Because if they don't like being in a small, school kind of out in the middle of nowhere, they're not going to necessarily like Mansfield. It's not going to be a good fit for them. I mean, that's not for everybody. It shocks a couple people, but I kind of ask those tough questions, get to know them on a personal level, so that when they get here, we already know so much about one another. We already have that kind of relationship. So it's just easy. It's fluid. We have normal conversations, not even about basketball, just about life. And it makes everything go so much smoother. It makes the parents feel more comfortable. And that's a big part as well. When the parents come on the visit, if they see how you interact with their kids and their kids have a good feeling about it, and you can answer the parents' questions more than you can answer the student athletes' questions.
So
like Seth, I do a lot. Want me to go ahead?
Go for it.
I'm like Seth. I spend a lot of time preparing beforehand. Do have long visits, probably not a 4 to 6 Friday, but I do have long visits. Also, I also make sure anytime a recruit comes, he's not only been in contact with me a lot, he's also been in touch with Coach Goncalves a lot. And then, of course, when they get on campus, both of us are going to be there to meet them. You do have to win mom and dad over too on their visit. And Mansfield has a lot of good qualities that win over mom and dad. Look, first, it's a very, there's not a school in America probably you can go to that's in a safer area than we are right now. There are a ton of distractions that prevent kids from doing their schoolwork. So, it offers a lot of positive qualities for mom and dad, because mom and dad don't want to be wasting $20,000 a year for a kid to be doing everything but going to class.
I think Mansfield sells itself. I'm right there with you. Taking them around, doing that stuff is great, and I think it definitely shows that you care, but you don't got to do much. Mansfield's a beautiful campus, especially when it's nice outside. It's got a small community feel. Education's good. The classrooms are good. Teachers are good. So I think that the community and the area sells itself, especially to parents. And that's kind of why I try to do my homework with the kids. So it's almost a smooth sailing. It's almost like as if he's just hanging out for the day because he already knows so much about the school. He already knows so much about me that he's just coming, look for his own eyes.
100%. And that's why I ask, like, try to make sure they want a small school, because if they want a small school, if they want even somewhat rural, then you're right. It sells itself. They get out of the car, their eyes light.
So you get the student athlete here. That from building that relationship as a recruit to that freshman year and maintaining that relationship and growing that even more. What are the steps come a student athlete's first year when there is that shock of college life coming in to a freshman? What are the steps to building and maintaining that relationship?
I mean, I think it all kind of goes into one. It starts again when you're recruiting them, and just but the fact that they're on campus and you see them every day, it only helps you. Culture shock is real, but if you have that groundwork, that relationship that they come to you about anything, then it makes it easier. They'll just walk into your office and chit chat with you and tell you how they feel, and you just have normal conversations with them. I think that's the biggest part in coaching is you're not only coaching them for the sport, but you're coaching them in life. You're teaching them life lessons and how to deal with things and that sort of stuff. So having that relationship start early, and then when they get on, it only elevates there because you see them every single day. All it is a simple text, "Hey, come see me," or all they have to do is walk into your office. And if you start early, and that's kind of what I do, I get to know them on a more personal level about anything. So, I mean, we don't even really talk about basketball because, us as basketball players, we watch NBA in college. So that definitely a part of our conversations, but it's more about, like, nowadays, it's more about their families, their lifestyle. What are they doing? How was class? How are your families? And that's just how I feel about it. It makes it almost easier. I think it's not one or the other. It's kind of just elevates as the time that they're a recruit.
I would just say be human and show you care. Just take an active interest in what they do outside baseball. I mean, we've had kids on our team that skateboard and snowboard, and I don't know the first thing about either one of them, but just be interested in what they do outside of baseball. I think if you do that, they're going to be more comfortable having a conversation with you if they do have something that they need to talk to you about.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's kind of a corny saying, and I'll try to get it, but they want to know that you care before they know what you know, or before they what you know. And so, for me, it's just time, putting the time into telling them, if you need anything, like Seth said, come to my office and talk about life, or just come to my office and cry. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. And soccer's secondary. I know that's kind of weird, being that I'm paid to be a soccer coach, but I say this to recruits and my current players. I'm paid to be a life coach. Like, I'm lucky that I get to spend every day talking with the young women on my team about life and helping them prepare for after college, and soccer comes along with that.
I mean, I'll go back I know we're now into, like, you asked Drew when they get on campus, but I just think it all starts when they're recruits. I mean, especially now during everything, the coronavirus, nobody's been able to come to campus, on an official visit. They've been so stressed. I mean, I know personally for us in basketball, I think we got 5 people to commit that has never even been on campus. I've went to see them play a game or two, and so I've had conversations in person briefly, but they've never stepped foot on campus. It's just the relationship that you build. How comfortable are they? Can they call you at any time? Obviously not too late, people have lives too, but call you at any time and ask you about anything. And that's how we, on our side, got the kind of kids we got, because we showed that we cared, and we really do. And like Shafe said, if you show you care, the kids are going to run the
Andy,
ball.
let me ask you about this because you've been at Mansfield now for a while as an assistant and now just as a head coach, but you know the kids on your team. For me, it's interesting right now because I'm only going into my second full year, and so I haven't even had my first full recruiting class yet. My recruiting class last year, I had to recruit them in about 9 months, and so I didn't necessarily have the time to build the relationship as much as I do with the incoming 2020s. And so for me, it was about trying to establish a rapport with the women that were here. And so I'm excited about the 2020s coming in because I've worked hard to create a rapport with the young women I inherited. And now I've been talking with some of these recruits for a year and a half who are coming in next year. So that's exciting for me. So what's it like to, have that rapport built over so long?
Well, it's different, but it's also the same. Like I'm in a different situation than I was. Like I'm only been in a situation I've been in for 6 months. Like, obviously, I have a little bit more responsibility in some things that allows, we all know that your relationship as an assistant can be a little bit different than it is as a head coach. So, kind of in the same boat, like I'm approaching it as if this will be my first, recruiting class. And then, this year was more along just getting guys getting adjusted to my expectations. Because when I was an assistant coach, my job wasn't to make decisions for the program. Now my job is to make decisions for the program. And, it doesn't matter how long you've been at a place or how long you've coached with a certain person. Whenever you take ownership of it yourself, there are going to be some things that are done differently.
Coach Chalot, I piggyback on that question. It's curious, me as an assistant coach, and I think everyone, like you said, everyone knows there is a different kind of relationship that you have as an assistant to a player than a head coach to a player. That's just kind of how it is, most of the time. Was it just natural? Did anything change when you became the head coach? As in, like, your relationships with players or recruits that came in and how you approach things, or was it just kind of natural, or is it still the exact same?
Well, it was, there's always going to be at some point where there has to be, you have to be the bad guy and discipline a guy as a head coach. You're usually not in charge of the discipline as an assistant coach. Now, the head coach can do exactly what you would do if you're an assistant, but they're still going to be mad at him, not at you when you're the assistant. That's just the way it is. So, it's just, some guys they got to see a side of me that they've never really seen before because my job responsibility to behave, to act that way as the assistant.
I think you're in a weirdly unique spot because not only did you get this position from an assistant to a head, but unfortunately your season was cut in the middle of it, in the early parts of it. So you didn't get that full season of building the rapport with these guys, or that new rapport as the head coach with this group. So what do you think the steps, or what have you taken at this time during the quarantine, during COVID-19, to try and still build that relationship and still grow that relationship in the new light that it's in during this time?
Well, obviously, while school was still in session in the online portion, we had to continue a lot of dialogue with our kids. Obviously, this online learning was a new experience for everyone. I'd never used Zoom until this year. I didn't even know what Zoom was till about 3 or 4 months ago. So, but we're also in a unique situation that just given where we were as a program with some attrition beforehand, and we had a rather large number of seniors graduate next year. Next year we will actually have, and this is a rarity, anybody here can tell you it's going to be a rarity, that you're going to have we have more incoming players than we do returning players. And then I think it really, and even, as far as everything's going to be different. Like I didn't get hired until after the school year started. So you're trying to implement stuff after the school year starts. I didn't get an assistant hired till late November. So you're basically, it's, Coach Goncalves got here, working school. I don't even know. He may have had like one conversation with our players before they went home and then boom, in January, we start practicing. We got like 5 weeks till we play our first game. It's like, we're going with what we got. It's, it was kind of a roller coaster shotgun this year. And, just a problem of attrition and survival.
I think it's exciting, though, that you guys got a lot of new guys again, especially kind of Shape pointed on this earlier of this relationships you have from recruiting your own full class. Because us in basketball, we didn't necessarily have our own full class. Last year was the first class that we kind of we recruited. We had a lot of pieces that we had to mix. So it was a little bit different. But I think this is the first full year that we kind of, got to really handpick every single player that we wanted. And we were lucky to get most of them. But it's exciting when you can get, 6 new incoming guys as freshmen and build that relationship with them. Because like you said, you got a lot of new guys coming in. I just feel like that's exciting, especially with where your program's at coming in.
Yeah. And then then after you get everyone, it was, all right, give Coach Goncalves this list of 15 guys that we signed to fall, because he's got to get to know them before they get here. And then, we're still recruiting for this. We might still bring.
Andy, I'm with you. We'll have to talk today because I have 15, 16, maybe with additional walk-on coming in, freshmen coming in, and 13 or 12 returners. And so you're right. It's a not common situation to have that many incoming freshmen that are going to dominate the roster.
And part of that was just the attrition in the amount of seniors, and of course it was seniors that were in the situation they were for us. Like the majority of our seniors were graduating; they already had employment lined up. We all know that Mansfield University is not a fully funded scholarship school. Some of these kids they would be spending an awful lot of money just to play another year of baseball. It wasn't that they didn't enjoy their experience. It's not that they didn't want one more senior season. It's just, financially and job-wise, it didn't make any sense for them to come back.
I think that was the most difficult thing about your season. You did get some games in, so if there is any silver lining, which it's hard to find, and I'm not trying to discount it in any way, but you did get that chance to travel together and those trips, because you all make either a non-conference trip out of state or the team from West Virginia that is a conference school. So you do make those long road trips with your teams, and building the relationships come those long trips. Because obviously on those there has to be a trust level with you guys and your student athletes. So how do you build that trust and that relationship that either is it to put into student leaders or to put into something to make it such that those trips go smoothly and everyone knows their role and you guys can communicate with your student athletes on those longer trips?
I think it's both, but I think the relationships when it comes to coaching a player is huge, but I think relationships amongst players are also very key. Doing multiple things in the off season, trying to get, your team camaraderie together, team bonding levels together to make sure that they're all on the same page too. Obviously they're all there to play basketball or in our case, and to get to win games and to compete for championships. But everyone's different. Everyone likes different things. Everyone has, different laws and how they're raised. So trying to get everyone on the team to be on the same page, to be fighting for one, to be a unit. When we say we're a family, and we really try to be family and push that. But I think that's where it starts. You got to get them all on the same page. So they love one another, interact well with one another, and they're not fooling around. They listen to each other, and you have your team leaders, like you said. You build that relationship with your team captains that you can trust and that they'll be able to, tell people when to calm things down or put people in line when need be. But if you have a good core group and they all are a good core family, I don't think too many people are going to lead astray. They're going to stay in line because you're not going to have multiple people trying to do things they shouldn't do. So then the trust becomes that much smoother for you as a coach, but it puts a smile on your face when you look back and you have your whole team, playing games in the back or having conversations or hanging out, in the hotel room playing an Xbox. When you have 8 kids playing Xbox in a hotel room, the night you get there for a couple hours, it's nice. I smile. Our kids are actually having fun. And that's a big thing for me, building that relationship with them, but not only with me and them, but them amongst the players as well.
I mean, hey, I only have one road trip a season right now, so I will defer to Coach Seth and Chalot on how to do that. But I think Seth hit the nail on the head as well. I mean, almost every one of our bus trips are 3 hours long at least. So we have a lot of long days, and those, whether, coming off of a win or a loss, those long days on a bus, people can get on each other's nerves. And so, as Seth said, it's about building the team camaraderie in the off season so that they enjoy spending, 14 hours together, or when our bus broke down coming out of Erie during a scrimmage and we had to stay the night in a bus on the highway, a 20-hour day on a bus, you look back and you enjoy that as much as you can because you were spending it with your family.
I put a lot of trust in our guys on the road. Like I don't micromanage every minute of their time. I mean, because we do have some longer trips. I mean, we have 12-hour trips down to North Carolina. We'll be down there for 3 or 4 days. You do the standard things like room checks late at night. Hey, keep it down. But I also treat them like men too, where I'm not going to sit out in the hallway. I'm not going to sit in the lobby. There's that, hey, if some 3 or 4 years that knows, hey, if someone does get out of line, they're going to take care of themselves. Because I truly believe, your best teams are your self-police teams, not coming from the head coach being a dictator. Your best teams are your best self-police teams.
I agree with you 100%. I think the best teams in college basketball and college sports, every team gets lucky, but when you have teams that are consistently, player-led teams, and you have those captains, those player-led teams, they're always winning. Those are the teams that consistently win. And I'm right there with you. I don't like micromanaging my guys at all. Because we're there to coach the sport, but we're also there to teach them life lessons. And, I'm not there to baby them. They're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old men in our case. I'm not going to tell them what they can and can't do, but they know the rules and they know what they're supposed to do. And that goes back to the trust. That goes back to the relationship that you build with them. If they trust you and you trust them, I think everything's going to be fine. And then your player captains can fix things when to go.
They know the rules, and one thing, and as well as I do now, that you can say a lot of things to a kid and it won't affect them in any way. But if you tell them you're disappointed in them, that really hits home with a lot of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
They're spending more time with you than they're spending with their family for 4 years. They're not home very much. In the spring, we play every single weekend. The kid doesn't go home the entire spring. So, he does know if he mess up, he's going to have a conversation. And at some point, the words "I'm disappointed in you" are going to come out of my mouth, and that hits a kid harder than most.
That's when go ahead.
And that just goes back to building that relationship even through the recruiting process, so that they're picking Mansfield for the school, for the academics, but they're also putting so much trust in us. When a player verbally commits, that is the most humbling experience for me. Because it's joyous for me, but after I hang up the phone or after they leave my office, I take a minute to let it hit me that a young woman and her parents are putting their trust in me. And if you build that relationship where they want to come to Mansfield partially because of you and your program, then they're not going to want to disappoint you.
Absolutely. I mean, oftentimes this may sound a little bit corny too, but when we have a kid verbal commit, I've usually had some, because one of the things I always tell a kid when I'm recruiting them, like, if your parents have any questions throughout the process, feel free to have them get a hold of me. And usually whenever a kid commits, I will send a text to the parents saying exactly what you just said, John. Just thank you for trusting me to take care of your kid for the next 4 years.
Agree. It is humbling experience. I think we haven't even touched on how big parents are in the recruiting process. They're huge, though. Parents are huge in most cases on the recruiting process, because you're not only recruiting the player, and you're kind of recruiting the parents as well. So I do think, sending that text, like you said, Coach Chalot, when they do a verbal, it's exciting. Like you said, Coach Shaffer, I get thrilled too. Take a second to relax and be like, wow, we got this kid and they're putting their trust in us. But
there is that change though in a relationship. When a student gets older, they get ready to go out into the world. They get ready to move towards the end of their career, sometimes the last time they'll play the sport that they choose. So how does the relationship change over time from that initial meeting to senior year? What are the changes you have noticed, and how do you adapt to that?
Well, I think for one, like, it's a humbling thing that happened to me this year that I hadn't really experienced before. But like, one of the really, really cool things is when you have seniors and you have a bunch of them ask you to write a letter of recommendation for them. It feels good because it knows makes you feel like you at least impacted the kid in a positive way. But, whereas a kid maybe having issues, as a freshman, away from home for the first time, inevitably the breakup with the high school girlfriend that happens when they go to college. Like, instead of talking about those types of things, it's, hey, can you write this letter for you? Or, hey, I just had an interview with the FBI. Somebody's going to be calling you. And it's actually a fun part of the job, especially, with this, without us flying a whole lot. I'm getting something to do some days when I was home.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm excited to experience that because, as I said, and for most people who know, I'm only going into my second full year. And so I'm excited to see how the freshmen that I inherited, what our relationship is like, and it's already starting to change in terms of them taking on more leadership things on their own. The questions they're asking me are a little bit, they're asking more difficult questions of me. It shows they're maturing, and that's exciting. And, not that we're necessarily, I mean, I want to use the word peer, but we're not. But at the same time, I'm viewing them. I'm putting so much trust in them, and I'm respecting them as young women, and seeing how they grow in that respect. And but also for me, as Coach Chalot said, the upperclassmen I inherited, to be able to build a relationship with them, and then in a year and a half have one of them call me and say, I'm being offered this job or this grad school opportunity. What do you think? I mean, the fact that they're asking my opinion on that is very humbling, and it's as Andy said, it's one of the joys of the job to get to help them set them up for success.
Yeah, I mean, I'm semi-young in this too. I mean, this is going in my third year, so I haven't necessarily had our recruiting class for 4 years and having them graduate and that sort of thing. But we inherited a class, and we've had multiple kids there for 2 years under us that went on to graduate. But I think it's an emotional time as well. You spend so much time with these young student athletes, men and women going through all kinds of changes, like Coach Chalot said, with breakups with girlfriends to, home troubles or just anything, job questions. You put so much time and effort into them because they don't have their parents. They do come to you for a lot of those things. And the fact that you're able to see them grow, not only in sports, but in life, how they interact with certain things, how they handle certain situations. It's emotional because you've been with them for so long. We're with the kid for 2 years every single day. And then they ask you these questions like, hey, what do you think about this job? We had a kid, Tyler Moff, who texted me every day. He was transferring out to be a grad student because we didn't have a grad program here for him. And he had questions. I mean, he had multiple offers, had D1s, D2s, and he just didn't know what was his best fit. But the fact that he was coming to me every single day, giving me different details, asking me what he should do, and really weighing in my opinion is humbling, because I know my opinion really matters to a young man, and it helps not make his decision, but my opinion matters. And it's emotional because you have a very important piece of their life. In 20 years, they're going to remember you for the rest of their life because you're with them every single day for 4 years.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I have 3 kids. I'm with my baseball team. I basically consider my kids because I spend more time with them in 5 months than I do with my own family.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, like me, I consider myself I consider myself a very older brother. I'm young in age. This is my 3rd, 4th year in doing this. Some kids, student athletes say they look up to them as father figures. To me, I've been considered an older brother because I'm still close in age and still kind of relate to them a lot of ways. And I really hang my hat on that. I try to be an older brother, but one that they, understand that I have my job, they have their job. I'm still their coach. But, when it comes to the other side of basketball, the life side, I'm more like an older brother and there to help them.
The other relationship that I want to talk about, and it's kind of great that this is the group here because you're all in a situation where you're either newer or new to the role that you're in. Coach Chalot, you'll probably have an easier answer for this, but alumni who have had a different head coach or an alumni who have had a different person as the person they knew leading a program, building that relationship with alumni to remember the past or to remember who they had, but also embrace your style, which might be very different from the previous style. And you need that alumni to get new people in. So building that relationship with alumni, what are the challenges and what are the rewards of it?
Well, first of all, like the thing I don't have to worry about is, look, the same guy coached for 30 plus years here. So it's not like I'm trying to talk to alumni that, where there's been 8, 10 different coaches, in the meantime. There was just one guy for 30 plus years. And, I think, obviously for me, our more recent graduates, that part's pretty easy. Look, you still, there's a lot of kids I've coached that have gone through here that are into coaching and things like that, where they're pretty easy to take care of. Like your older guys, like in the 90s when Mansfield was had tremendous success in baseball. Those guys take a little bit more effort. Not every guy or in that age bracket is a huge social media person. Because social media is one of the easiest ways to get in touch with alumni, Twitter and but just not everybody that in that age bracket is huge into Twitter and Instagram and things like that. So, one of the things I did was, look, Mansfield in the 90s went to the World Series multiple times. That was the heyday. I just give me some names and numbers of people in that era, and I just personally reached out to them by telephone. And we've had numerous of them up on campus this past fall, and once again, it's just you're going to find depending on what area, you're going to have different ways of communicating with each of them. I think Coach Shaffer was one of the things we're going to start, and I think you've already started it, which is the alumni newsletter. Just to, I think alumni, they just, they want to feel important. And one of the ways that they can feel important is if you just constantly just take a little bit of time out of your day to communicate with them in some manner. It doesn't always have to be on telephone, but email them an alumni newsletter and things like that. We all have a lot of things going on, but if we just make a little bit of time, it works.
Yeah, not that the previous. I'm in the same boat as Coach Chalot because I'm only the second coach in the history of the program. The previous coach was here for 16 seasons, and so the same thing. All the alumni have a common experience of of having only one other coach. But for me, it's been, I want to learn the history of the program. So when I've tried to reach out to alumni, I want to know came to Mansfield. And, you know, probably the worst part of losing our spring season was losing our alumni game, because last year, my first season, I set up the alumni game. I set up an alumni social that night, and the women that came back, they just stood around the table. There was like 30 of them. They started going around the table talking about, you know, why they came to Mansfield, what they remember, what they're doing now. I just sat there until then. And so, you know, for me, I'm early in the process, but, you know, as Andy said, I'm trying to do the alumni newsletter, trying to be active on social media. Again, the program's only been around for 18 years. So most of the alumni are on social media, but trying to reach out to them through that, trying to get their engagement on our Facebook page, and engagement as many ways as possible, and just letting them know that I, as the new coach, even though I didn't coach them, I care about them, and I want them to be involved. You know, stuff I put out, I talk about past, present, and future. So that covers alumni to the current team to future recruits.
Yeah, I think we're in the basketball setting, at least with our staff. You know, we're still kind of early in that process of trying to reach out to the older alumni. And Coach Senesi, the head coach, has been here, you know, for some time, so he knows the more recent alumni going on. We've been trying to back years. We had a parade this past year in Mansfield. I think it was the last PSAC championship. I don't remember quite the year, but it was great having those alumni, that team, come back and just share their memories and their experiences and what it took for them to win, because it's not easy. It's hard to win championships in the PSAC in any sport, no matter what it is. But having those talks and having those memories being shared with our players, it drives them, it pushes them. And we're still young. We're still doing a couple of things, kind of like they said with the newsletter. But I do think it is huge. It is huge to grow your sport, your team. But I like what they're doing. We're young in it, and we're gonna keep growing with it.
All right. So with the relationships, the other thing really to consider is not only your relationships with the student athletes, but as we've seen here, your relationships with other coaches. Having to share a facility. Coach Chalot, you really don't have to share your facility with anyone, but the other two, you guys do. So building that relationship, yes, Coach Schaaf, you have the soccer field for you, but you do spend time on the turf getting ready, and of course the court. You do have to share that actually with baseball sometimes, so I guess it comes to play there too. But the relationships with the other coaches and being able to schedule things so you all get the time that you need for what you need. What is the importance and really the understated importance of having a good community of coaches and being able to relate to one another and discuss things with each other?
Oh man, I think it's huge. I still remember in my interview, part of the interview process was a meeting with the coaches, and the first or second question I was asked by one of the coaches was, you know, how are you going to be a team player? And what I so appreciate about my colleagues is that we are a family. As Andy said earlier, we're all in this boat together. We are not a fully funded university. We're not going to go out and get a recruit with money, which is why building the relationship is so important. And every coach understands that for a program to be successful, they're going to rely on all the other programs for help, be it emotional support, be it sharing of facilities, be it sharing a player in some aspects if they dual sport. You know, so we are a family, and that's one of the biggest things I miss about not being able to go into the office throughout this is I miss being able to see Drew, you next door, and see Seth, and see Andy, and see Britt, and everyone else. And specifically Coach Hands wrote Brittany, the field hockey coach. I joke that she's my Yoda because she's been such a mentor. She's given up countless hours to help me. She didn't have to do that. She could have been focused on her program, but she wanted soccer to improve. And so she's given up so much of her time for me. And so we're just a family.
It's the relationship with the coaches is, I can't envision it being any better. Like, we get put in tough situations in the winter months, January and February. You got men's and women's basketball, you got baseball, and you got softball that all practice in one gym. Then randomly, you might get a 45-degree day where you're going outside and you want to use the turf. Softball wants to use the turf. Track's having practice out there. Shaffer Britain's having one of their out-of-season get-togethers out there, and it just always seems to work at Mansfield. I mean, literally, it's like, hey, you go to someone. Everyone's so flexible with their facility, and especially basketball's got to worry about us beating baseballs into their court and things like that. And it's just easy. I like the fact that I can just walk up to Coach Sennessy's office. I can just walk into somebody's office and literally it gets worked out within 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. It's huge in any aspect. Obviously sharing facilities during the middle of the season gets hectic, but it's not hectic here because it's simple, because everyone's so loving, caring, and most of the time, just easygoing. You just walk into their office, like Coach Chalot said, like, hey, we had this practice at this time. Can we work something out? And it's done in 2 minutes. Yeah, I hate both of these guys, so the relationship is bad here, but no, I'm just kidding. I love both of them, but I just think it's huge. I think it makes the office better. It makes your experience better, and it alleviates pressure from you. You don't have to worry about anything most of the time, because your coworkers are going to help you. If you have any questions or any problems, no matter what, someone in that office is there to help you. I've countless of times I just go into Coach Shaffer's office and just talk to him about different things, and he's there to listen no matter what. He shuts his computer off, turns his chair, and he'll just listen. Same thing with Coach Andy. And that's pretty much hands down everybody in the department. They're just there for you no matter what. And it makes things go a lot.
And I think something else that's really important to make this work is we've instilled in our programs, in our student athletes, they understand that every team has to work together. When I have to change a practice last minute, or when I ask Britt to change a practice last minute so we can get on the turf to share, the field hockey girls aren't upset. They're not, this and that about the soccer team. They're like, oh yeah, we'll move practice. Like we'll split the field. Like the players are flexible as well, because they understand that all the team's success are based on each other.
And it's, I have to say, this working here has been great because of that, because you guys are so there's no animosity towards each other, which is very nice and refreshing to work in. We've reached the part of our show where I will now open the floor to you guys, the parting shots here for today. Again, the floor will be yours. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Doesn't have to be related to building relationships, but it doesn't have to be not related to it. Let's start with you, Coach Seth Turner. You have the floor first.
It was breaking up. Did you say it was my turn?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. I'll just keep it on topic. I've been on this show multiple times, so I've probably said a lot of things and repeated a lot of things. But I'll keep it on the topic of relationships. I think now in today's society, relationships is huge in a positive way. I would express to everyone, go out and try to build the relationships you already have and create new relationships with other people that you may not have, or they may be minimal. Because again, like I said last week on this episode, you never know what someone's going through. And so that relationship you have with someone may be crucial. not only to them, but to you. It could be in 5 years. It could be in 1 week. It could be in 10 years. You don't know when you will need that person or when they will need you. So I just would say in this final part, just build relationships with people, be a positive influence in that person, and do something new every week. Reach out to a new person every single week and build that relationship even stronger.
I'll keep it on point too. Just talk about relationships. And I think like this year, relationships will even be more important than most years. You may have kids that will have to base their decision on not being able to visit a school, and it will be basically made on relationships with coaches. I mean, we may take it for granted a little bit that we're open up here. There's a lot of places that still aren't open. There's a lot of places that still probably have a ways to go before they get open. And in those areas, they're not allowed to get out and visit any other school right now, where we don't know, if we're going to be able to get out and recruit people the rest of the summer. Right? The NCAA hasn't made a decision that I'm aware of yet. So it's just literally it's telephone, it's Zoom, it's FaceTime, and it's the relationships that you build. And a lot of these kids are going to be making their decisions based on that.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I guess, with everything going on in the world right now, I think relationships are so important. And I guess my closing comment is, realize that what we have in common is so much stronger than what divides us. I have a diverse team, not necessarily ethnically super diverse, but, I have gay, straight, conservative, liberal. I have a very diverse team, and yet in the last 2 weeks, every member of the team can players, and building that relationship one-on-one, but also the relationship between players. We're humans and we're people, and we love each other, and we can argue about a political philosophy and then still come together and break bread at Mansfield. And just realize that what we have in common is stronger than what divides us, and don't let social media divide you. So that's my closing topic.
Well, thank you guys so very much for taking the time and hopping on here. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Drew.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
Do it for our show here, folks. To stay up to date on all things Mansfield Athletics, head over to GoMounties.com. We will see you next time.